A new ambassador to the U.S. is appointed ahead tonight. The Minister of Foreign Affairs on why it took so long.
A deadly ride. What police know so far about the murder of a jeepney driver and the shooting of his passenger.
And could there be new orders on law enforcement insurance? The explanation from the Prime Minister coming up. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
In a surprise announcement today, it was revealed that former ambassador to Haiti, Dr. Eugene Nuri, has been appointed ambassador to the United States. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kendino Knowles.
And I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Well, that was the first part of the surprise. The second was that the government's original candidate for the position, former prison superintendent Dr. Alliston Ramming, withdrew his name as a candidate months ago.
Dr. Ramming, however, will be appointed as ambassador to the United Nations and maintain his post as permanent representative to the Organization of American States.
Now, the government announced today that Dr. Ramming asked to be reassigned on May 3rd, but the government didn't announce that until the U.S. confirmed the new appointee.
All of this taking place after a political war of words over the delay in confirmation.
Our LTV's Munnings tonight has reaction from both sides of the political divide.
Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell told reporters today that within weeks of appointing Dr. Alliston Ramming as Bahamas ambassador designate to the United States, the Christie administration discussed organizational changes within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And those changes, he confirmed, were thoroughly discussed with Prime Minister Perry Christie and then approved by the cabinet.
While the consideration of Dr. Ramming's initial appointment was being considered by the U.S., Dr. Ramming himself decided that he would withdraw and ask for another assignment. So that took place in May. It fit in quite well with our reorganization plans, and we asked him if he would be willing to take the assignment at the United Nations. He agreed, but we didn't want to make any announcement about this until the U.S. had actually provided the agrement. Dr. Nuri also agreed, so it all fit in rather neatly, and we got the answer yesterday.
Did Dr. Ramming give any reason why he wanted to be reassigned?
No, my recollection is that I think it's just a matter of his personal choice.
The government confirmed in a press release issued Tuesday that Dr. Ramming, now the Bahamas' ambassador designate to the United Nations, and Dr. Eugene Nuri, the Bahamas' ambassador designate to the United States, will meet with their staff August 27th and 28th. The government also confirmed, though, that Dr. Ramming will remain the permanent representative to the Organization of American States. Now, you may remember that the Free National Movement was concerned about Dr. Ramming's diplomatic appointment to the United States. FNM leader Dr. Hubert Minnis told our news team today that the government just needs to be honest with the Bahamian people.
I've been informed by other ambassadors in the region that once a name has been submitted by your government for an ambassadorial post, if you've not heard from the given country within 2 months, it's an unwritten law or rule that that individual would not be confirmed. The Bahamas knew that. He's going to be stationed in Washington, in New York. How is he going to be traveling back and forth to do two full-time? He didn't qualify for one, so now all of a sudden you have two.
Foreign Affairs Minister Mitchell also told reporters today that he's expected to travel to the United States next week to visit our diplomatic offices in Washington, D.C. He's also expected to meet with officials at the U.S. State Department. I'm LTV's Munnings, ZNS Network News.
Prime Minister Perry Christie has responded to criticism leveled against the government following the repatriation of those 24 Cuban migrants on Friday past. A U.S. Congresswoman was the latest to lash out at the government for the handling of the issue, aside from Cuban protesters in Miami. He said the issue of Panama did come up and there were attempts to ascertain the position through diplomatic efforts on whether asylum would be offered. But the Prime Minister says the government follows the treaties it has with other governments, and he maintains allegations of abuse are being investigated.
We act in accordance with the agreements and the treaties that we have with our partners. We do not invite the Cubans to come to the Bahamas. They come in. And when they come in, we are spending significant resources to ensure that they are treated in a very hospitable way, and even though they're in the detention center, that there is a level of comfort that ought to exist, and we most certainly as a government subscribe to it. We do not encourage or lay a position for people who are officers of the detention center to treat people cruelly. That's not the intention of the government. And we're going to try to work through this problem, but we're just, I think, innocent victims as a country and a government of this entire situation. And if, in fact, a few of our officers have caused people to have harm inflicted upon them, then we have to find those parties and they have to pay the price for their misdeeds.
Now, the minister responsible for security at the detention center is speaking out on the controversy being fanned by Miami-based Cuban protesters. Democracy Now! National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage assures the public that his ministry and Defense Force officials have been keeping a close eye on the developments.
Insofar as the video itself is concerned, we know now for a fact that the video was a fake video. In other words, what was on the screens was Cuban detainees themselves recording that. They were not Defense Force officers. We know that for a fact. However, with respect to the larger question of the alleged abuse of detainees, that matter is being investigated thoroughly, and at the end of the investigation, we intend to have an inquiry, and let the inquiry determine the truth or otherwise of the allegations that are being made, and the government will act accordingly. What we want the public to realize is that it is no part of the government's policy for detainees in the detention center or prisoners in prison or accused persons who happen to be in custody to be abused in any way. No one has the right to do that. It is not the government policy for that. And so once we determine what the truth or otherwise is of these allegations, we will have to deal with it in accordance with the law and with our policies.
With Thursday night's crime forum dubbed Operation Ceasefire all set to go, Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Bernard Nottage, hopes that with all of the heads of law enforcement in the country in one room listening to the views and ideas of the public, officials will have a treasure trove of information to act on.
We know that the police has their policing plan, the Defense Force has their plan, the prison, everybody has their plan. Now we're going to try to create the people's plan and involve the positive ideas that come out of what they are suggesting to us in these other strategies, so that we have a single national strategy in which all of the stakeholders have had their input. And hopefully, when the public sees how serious we are about listening to them and about incorporating their ideas, they would regard themselves as crime fighters too. Because right now, you know, in many of the communities, people have information, but they don't come forward with it. People know who's doing the shooting, people know who's doing the home invasions, people know who's doing the snatching of gold, and people know who's breaking into stores and stealing the copper. But the information is not coming forward. But we want to enlist all of them as participants in the fight against crime, along with us.
The search is on tonight for the gunman who shot and killed a jitney driver and left one of his passengers wounded. Police say the attack was motivated by robbery. They say the driver was held up around 6 o'clock yesterday evening in the area of Tues Shop Corner off East Street before being shot. He later died in hospital. The passenger remains in hospital tonight. Now, the suspect is described as a dark male. He was said to be wearing brown, or rather khaki pants, a white shirt and white tennis shoes. He fled the area on foot. And again, the search continues tonight. Police have charged a teenager in connection with the murder of 2013 graduate Althrenika Young, whose body was found near the St. Augustine's Monastery 2 Sundays ago. 18-year-old Cameron Vincent is accused of the August 11th murder. Police say the 17-year-old was strangled to death. Her body was found by a jogger in the area of St. Augustine's College Monastery. In court, Vincent was not required to enter a plea. A voluntary bill of indictment is expected to be filed, and the case has been adjourned.
Well, it seems after weeks of agitation, members of the law enforcement agencies might just get their wish to have their medical coverage restored. Just Monday, the group threatened to take a strike vote if the changes to their new health insurance plan weren't reversed. Andrew Knowles has been following the story and tells us what the government's latest position is.
Prime Minister Perry Christie says he sees no problem with the thousands of officers who make up the country's law enforcement agencies getting their old medical coverage reinstated. Members of the police and defense forces, along with their prisons, customs, immigration, and maritime colleagues, joined forces against the new health insurance plan, which took effect July 1st. Prime Minister Christie said the changes were only made to improve the coverage.
I have no difficulty whatsoever of being able to give them what they had, and that it will have implications to the loss of certain benefits that they would have had as a result of the new regime.
Under the new scheme, the government increased benefits for parents with special needs children. Already one child was a beneficiary of this new element added to the insurance. But on the flip side, union members claim out-of-pocket costs in some cases ballooned at least 300% compared to the previous plan, making it difficult for them to afford medical care.
It makes no sense if employees are saying that they don't want additional coverage. And why would you give it to them? You know, and so our choices would be, they're going to meet with them today at Labor, they'll meet tomorrow at Finance, and if at the end of the day, after the team goes through explaining the improvements and the benefits, if the employees say that they don't want it, then why should we force it on them?
A trade dispute was filed back in July with the Department of Labor, and now the group says they're ready to take a strike vote if the decision isn't reversed. But Labor Minister Shane Gibson says he does not think it will get to that, but if it does, he has this warning.
The question is, when you walk off the job, how you can get back on, right? It's easy walking off. When you spend months off the job and no salary, no income, then you have to decide how you get back on.
Meantime, the group says it will not be intimidated and remain undeterred with its plans until the original medical coverage is reinstated. Andrew Knowles, ZNS Network News.
In our first look at weather, a strong tropical wave to the south of Hispaniola will bring showers to the islands over the next couple of days, spreading over the northwest Bahamas on Saturday and Sunday. But outside of our studios just now, we have mostly cloudy skies, temperature 86 degrees, your relative humidity 75%, winds out of the east-northeast at 10 knots, your barometric pressure 1,016.0 millibars, that's 30.00 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, your temperatures around the Fond Leaf Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Well, still to come, the dispute that could put some classes on hold come September.
And Neil Ellis ends a long-standing tenure. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.